Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this monologue, I am going to discuss the dress code for human beings as prescribed in the glorious Koran. The dress code for human beings has been a vital cultural determinant throughout the annals of history. The people from all walks of life, whether living in their own country or abroad, take pride in putting on the unique costumes of their respective cultures. Consequently, the dress designers and fashion leaders of the world acknowledge the importance of cultural variables while designing costumes for different nations. These facts prove that human beings cannot be easily persuaded to completely give up their dress code in preference to a certain dress code, how much appealing it may look like. This monologue will evaluate the key parameters and essentials of the dress code prescribed by the glorious Quran for human beings belonging to various cultures. It will also be examined that why the glorious Quran provides generic guidelines on this issue and do not adhere to any specific national dress code. The core purpose of prescribing a dress code by the glorious Quran will be the key theme of this discourse. Quran is composed of eternal wisdom for the benefit of mankind in all walks of life, as ordained by the Creator, the merciful God. Therefore, it is imperative to see how Quran addresses the delicate issue of dress code for the guidance of all human beings belonging to various cultures. Naturally, if Quran prescribes any specific national dress code in preference to multiple dress codes observed by nations of the world, it may lose its pragmatic appeal before mankind. The Creator, in His eternal wisdom, therefore prescribes a dress code that is generic in nature, so that all nations can conveniently adopt it within the constraints of their cultural values and other environmental constraints. The glorious Quran also highlights the primary purpose of all dress codes for the guidance of mankind. The primary purpose of any dress code in the sight of God is explained in chapter 7, verse 26 of the glorious Quran in the following words: Children of Adam, we have given you garments to cover your nakedness and as adornment for you. The garment of God consciousness, self-restraint, piety is the best of all garments. This is one of God's signs, so that people may take heed. The implication and depth of this verse proves that it is the cornerstone of divine wisdom bestowed upon mankind on the delicate issue of dress code. God makes it clear beyond a reasonable doubt that the dress code of any type serves two key purposes, that is, to cover one's nakedness and for adornment purpose. Therefore, any dress code that serves these two purposes is lawful in the sight of God. This divine decree is an acknowledgement of the fact that all dress codes observed by multiple cultures are acceptable if they meet the above referred to criteria. Cover your nakedness implies hiding private parts of the body that may provoke the opposite sex towards lust. There is no bar in putting on a trouser, a loose pajama, or any other garment, so long as it hides your private parts properly. God clearly pronounces that the best dress is self-restraint and God's consciousness, implying that even if your dress apparently covers your nakedness, but you are inclined towards lewdness, then such a dress code has no sanctity in the sight of God. This command is full of wisdom from pragmatic perspective. It forecloses the possibility of adopting all dress codes that are adhered to as rituals to cover nakedness when the human conscience is bent upon committing lewdness with any available opportunity. This verse ends with the statement that it is full of wisdom so that people may take heed. The purpose of all Quranic injunctions is inculcating purity of faith in human beings. God does not uphold those human actions that are carried out as rituals, but are devoid of spiritual substance. This is the essence of unity of Godhood, affirming in the oneness of God. 2. Doing righteous acts as ordained in the Koran. 3. Fearing accountability of the Judgment Day. Chapter 24, verse 30 of the glorious Quran reads, "Tell believing men to lower their glances and guard their private parts. That is purer for them. God is well aware of everything they do." This verse is addressed to believing men, that is, followers of Islam as a religion. It has two specific injunctions. 1. Lowering the gaze. 2. Guarding the private parts. Lowering of gaze implies focusing on the activity one is performing instead of looking around as a peeping Tom. When someone looks around towards other persons, male and females, curiously, he may become guilty of the sin of breaching the privacy of other persons, regardless of the fact what dress code the other person is observing. Islam does not approve spying and peeping Tom behavior. Second injunction relates to guarding the private parts that may be a source of attraction for the opposite sex or same sex. Chapter 24, verse 31 of the glorious Quran reads, "And tell believing women that they should lower their glances, guard their private parts, and not display their charms beyond what to reveal. They should let their headscarves fall to cover their necklines, and not reveal their charms except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their womenfolk, their slaves, such men as attend them who have no sexual desire, or children who are not yet aware of women's nakedness. They should not stamp their feet so as to draw attention to any hidden charms. Believers, all of you turn to God so that you may prosper." The same two injunctions, that is, lowering the gaze and guarding the private parts, apply to women, with the additional injunction that the headscarf should cover their bosom, that may be prominent and a source of attraction to the opposite sex. The permissible interaction is allowed between those relations or human beings who cannot be attracted towards them either due to blood affinity, for example, father, brother, etc., or social status, a slave or a servant, or age, for example, a child. These additional injunctions have been prescribed keeping in view the attraction and weak physical composition of females, because if a stranger male tries to overpower a female, she cannot defend herself unless there is strict enforcement of law for the protection of females in the society that may deter a man from the commission of this sin or crime. Chapter 24, verse 60 of the glorious Quran reads, "No blame will be attached to elderly women who are not hoping for sex if they take off their outer garments without flaunting their charms. But it is preferable for them not to do this. God is all hearing, all seeing." Well, an older woman may not be a source of attraction for the opposite sex, so she may adopt a less rigorous dress code. Still, God advises that if they prefer putting on outer garment to hide the contours of their body, it may be better for them, lest they may be assaulted by a pervert male. Chapter 33, verse 59 of the glorious Quran reads, "Prophet, tell your wives, your daughters, and women believers to make their outer garments hang low over them, so as to be recognized and not insulted. God is most forgiving, most merciful." This verse is meant to protect believing women of Prophet's time from disgrace at the hands of disbelievers of Mecca, who used to frolic with every female as an object of sex. Believing women, by putting on a different dress code, may be spared by these disbelievers under social pressure. This verse of the Quran also provides evidence to the fact that the unique dress code may be a source of protection for the believing women in a culture. However, if due to negative propaganda, the unique dress code, for example a veil or outer garment, has become a source of hatred, as it is the case in Western cultures nowadays, then a believing woman may put on a decent dress code according to the norms of that society to avoid humiliation in the hands of disbelievers. God Almighty may pardon this sin. Chapter 7, verse 27 of the glorious Quran reads, "Children of Adam, do not let Satan seduce you as he did your parents, causing them to leave the garden, stripping them of their garments to expose their nakedness to them. He and his forces can see you from where you cannot see them. We have made evil ones allies to those who do not believe." This verse of the Quran alludes towards the original sin of exposing their private parts by Adam and Eve at the instance of Satan. This foul act of first mankind became a cause of their expulsion from the heaven, giving birth to worldly life and its discomforts. A reminder is given to human beings that Satan and his forces of evil are always in an ambush to entice mankind to commit sins so that hell may become their eternal abode, a claim made by Satan before God at the time of his expulsion from God's mercy. God makes it clear that as part of his eternal design, that is a predestined decision, he has made unbelievers allies of Satan. So human beings are reminded to believe in the injunctions of Quran to avoid falling in the circle of evil forces of Satan. Thus, nakedness with the motive to lure the opposite sex or same gender is a serious sin in the sight of God, because it may give birth to beastly sexual relationships between two genders with no social or moral obligation to protect the honor of each other. Such a relationship is contrary to the purpose of life as ordained in the glorious Quran, that is, leading a virtuous life. There are several elements that may affect the choice of a dress code in real life. These may include 1. Culture. For example, dress code of Asian cultures is different than the European culture. Within each culture, there may be several subcultures affecting the dress code. 2. Age. Dress code of younger persons may be different from the elderly persons. 3. Gender. Dress code of females is different from males' dress code. 4. Social status. There may be difference in the dress code of rich and poor persons. 5. Work environment. The dress code of a factory worker may be different from an office worker. 6. Profession. A soldier, a nurse may need to put on a uniform, while an athlete or a swimmer has put on a different type of dress. Occasion or social event. The dress code in a wedding will be different than the dress code on an excursion trip. So there are numerous variables that affect the choice and eligibility of certain type of dress code within the two constraints prescribed by Quran, that is hiding nudity and for adornment purpose. Acts of faith may be classified as either high visibility or low visibility acts. For example, paying charity in private is a low visibility act of faith, because only you or the recipient of charity may know about it, while performing prayer in the mosque or the church is a high visibility act of faith, because many people in the mosque or church may witness this act. Putting on a dress code and adopting physical appearance as prescribed by one's faith is the highest visible act, because wherever you go, whoever you meet will notice you and expect certain standards of behavior on the basis of their perception about your professed faith. So by adopting a unique dress code and physical appearance, you become a center of attraction for others and also become an ambassador of your faith. Then it is imperative for all such persons to exhibit highest standards of behavior in the society. They cannot take refuge in the flimsy argument that if they have adopted a unique dress code of piousness, they have not become angels and people may ignore their vices. This is akin to a situation where a soldier has put on his uniform and he walks in a clumsy manner in the public, leading observers to cheer at him. Consequently, physical appearance and dress code of human beings are important part of one's personality. These are the two important criteria on the basis of which other human beings judge us and expect certain standards of behavior. For example, if a man has grown a beard or he is putting on a turban or cap as a sign of sanctity, people may demand a higher standard of conduct from him. Similarly, if a woman is putting on a veil or headscarf as a sign of sanctity, she is expected to demonstrate higher standards of morality in all respects. Therefore, if a human being who is camouflaged in an apparently pious dress code and physical appearance commits a delinquent act, he is severely criticized by other human beings. Even his faith and religious beliefs may be criticized vehemently by others due to his double standards. This is natural, because such a human being has only adopted a pious dress code as a ritual, and he fails to grasp the essence of piety as ordained by God. Thus he becomes a bigger sinner in the sight of God due to serious implications of his behavior. Many imprudent human beings adopt pious dress code and physical appearance as a first step or a ritual without first taming themselves as pious human beings. Consequently, they bring a bad name to their faith and to themselves and become bigger sinners in the sight of God. Therefore, a human being may follow the moderate path even in adopting a dress code, lest he may tarnish the image of Islam, that is complete submission to the will of God, through incompatibility of his dress code and overt behavior. Quran has alluded the importance of middle or moderate path in many verses for the guidance of mankind. For example, chapter 2 verse 143 of the glorious Quran reads, "Thus we have appointed you a middle nation, that ye may witness against mankind, and that the messenger may be a witness against you." Similarly, chapter 2 verse 238 reads, "Be guardians of your prayers and of the middle prayer, and stand up with devotion to God." Chapter 7 verse 31 reads, "Children of Adam, dress well whenever you are at worship, and eat and drink, but do not be prodigal. God does not like extravagant people." These verses highlight the fact that middle path or the moderate behavior within the fundamentals of faith is the most practical path keeping in view human nature. Any extreme position on a specific act of faith may result in a trade-off for others' acts of faith due to limited human vision and capacity. For example, it is a common observation that when an individual pays more attention on a specific ritual or act of faith, he may do compromise on other acts of faith due to a myopic focus. This is contrary to the far-sighted or holistic approach ordained by the Quran in every sphere of activity. In the light of wisdom provided by the glorious Quran, certain plausible conclusions may be drawn. 1. The dress code prescribed by the glorious Quran does not suggest any seclusion of sexes. Males and females members of the society can work together by observing injunctions of the dress code. 2. The dress code is a high visibility act of faith, and a person who adopts a unique dress code according to his or her faith must exhibit highest standards of morality and behavior. Otherwise, he or she will be more accountable before God. 3. The glorious Quran does not prescribe any specific dress code that may be of certain type, color, design, or texture. Any dress code may be permissible if it is worn in conformity to the natural needs of the human beings, and it prevents nakedness and is a sign of adornment. 4. It is also obligatory that all human beings may lower their glances to avoid staring at the other person unless they are communicating with each other due to job requirement, social interaction, or any other permissible reason. This act ensures that no temptation may creep into the mind of a person that may lead to perverse consequences. 5. The dress code prescribed by God serves two key purposes. 1. Hiding nakedness, that is concealing private body parts. 2. For adornment purpose. Finally, the essence of dress code in God's sight is piety and self-restraint. I conclude my monologue with a prayer that Allah Almighty may bless this effort. Please do subscribe to my channel for updates. It's absolutely free.